We welcome the night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Night Oasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Ian. Ian, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think.
No, everything's good. It's a little bit of a late start on our end because of Ian wasn't able to find tonight's movie until I linked it to him, but it's been one of those days. I didn't have internet earlier, so I wasn't able to see anything, or else I would have been able to fix that problem. So it's like, I don't know. It's the world and everything else going with it. But other than that, besides being a little flustered, I guess, everything else okay with you? How's your wife?
Good. She got her test result back negative. I burnt my eyeball. It's all swollen and crusty. And yeah. So world has not been great.
World keeps
week.
us spinning, Yeah. No, but we're here to hopefully put all that behind us for a short span of time with our Halloween grab bag marathon that we will be continuing on tonight. We have tonight's show and then 2 more episodes before we get into our Scarecrow marathon for November, which it's sort of like an ongoing thing from October to November. But again, it's something I just planned out beginning of the year, and I'm looking forward to it because there's some interesting Scarecrow titles that I'm looking forward to checking out, and hopefully, I mean, we know how Halloween Jack goes, so we'll see how they turn out. But nonetheless, we are going to continue on with our marathon with a little film called They Live Inside Us, and this is one of the reasons we're a little bit late because Ian found the short that this is based off of because this was a short in the film The Witching Season that came out a few years back. It was one of the segments in there, and like all the other films, like VHS and All Hallows Eve, they take a short, turn it into a feature. So we had that with Siren for VHS, we had that with Terrifier and All Hallows Eve, and now we have The Witching, They Live Inside Us for They Live Inside Us that was in The Witching Season. Did you watch the short, Ian?
I started to, but I was like, I don't think this is it. And I even typed it in, I typed it in on Google and everything. It would only take me to the short. And I even typed in movie 2020, and it said the short, and then it next to the short, it said 2020. So I guess it was some kind of,
Yeah, someone's not doing their job right.
Their part.
But I fixed that for you once. I fixed it in like 2 seconds. So, nonetheless, we got Ian got it watched, and we are going to review it. And as I said, I haven't seen The Witching season yet. It's one of the few anthologies that I've yet to watch. I watched like 3 of them today. And, well, technically, you can technically count this as an anthology because it all takes place in one film and there's some separate stories, but it's all integral to the overall story plot of this film. So it's not really an anthology film, even though in a sense it kind of is because of 3 stories. But nonetheless, we have They Live Inside Us, and it takes place on Halloween night. And we have our main character. His name is Jake, which his name's not spoken, so it's only revealed in the credits that his name is Jake. And he is a writer, and he has writer's block, and he decides to go to this house called the Booth House, which has this storied back history or hauntings. Just like a bunch of stuff's gone down in this house, apparently. And it's technically like the haunted house in the town. Because like the first start out, you have the kids talking about it and like all the stories going on with it, and so he decides to take his daughter, Danny, and go to. And Danny is she's crippled. She has to have crutches, special crutches to walk and be carried around. And so Jake, and plus it's coming up on Halloween, and she wants to do, Halloween things like go out and trick-or-treat and stuff like that, but Jake's all wrapped up in stories, and he gets the best of him. And so it starts out with him, again, this house has a storied history. I'm going to go in there and see what kind of stories I can come up with, and it has him, normal stuff, beginning of the film, where he's going in there, all's fine, and then he starts coming up with stories, and we have 3 segments within the overall story, but they're all in, again, they all come together towards the end of the film, and I like that aspect of it. I did like that part of the film. And so, like, he's coming up with, like, he has his little journal, and he has, titles, and trying to come up with, because, again, he has writer's block, and so he's going down his list of movie monsters, and, first one is, like, Mask Killer, and I like to look at the Mask Killer, and then we have the clown, and then we had the Scarecrow, and the segments. Again, I'm calling them segments because that's the way they are. But the stories, quote unquote, I like the way that they looked. Honestly, those could be part of something else. Honestly, but I liked the way that they looked and how they kind of come back into play towards the finale of the film. But overall, it wasn't bad. I mean, compared to the previous 2 films that we reviewed so far for this marathon, this is the best of them because it's not the most remarkable because it's pretty much, a person goes into a house with a past and then slowly something starts to unravel and there's a big reveal and, they have to come, figure out everything, and there's more to it than meets the eye, basically, of the history and the troubled past of the house. More things start to become revealed. And when I was going through there, I was like, this kind of reminds me of the others. It's like it's that typical, like people in a house, something happens, or they're doing something, and like there's this big, switch, not really switch, but there's this tone that you kind of realize is like, okay, I know where this is sort of heading. And that's kind of like one of its downfalls where I kind of knew where it was going. And it doesn't really shy away from that. It pretty much knew that path from the beginning, and you kind of expected it to go down that way. Everyone, again, the acting was fine. I know Ian had something to talk about there. But again, the overall story, it was fine. It was interesting. It kind of kept you interested, even though you kind of knew where it was going a little bit. The stories or segments, I liked those. And, again, how he came back into play towards the finale. Overall, I mean, I didn't have – it's a fine film. I mean, it like I said, like last week with Bad Apples, I said it was service. It was sufficient. I mean, this one, it's serviceable. I mean, it does have some decent, okay things to it, and it has more of a impact with characters and more of a, what you would get out of a haunted house / ghost film. and it has more, interesting characters and struggles that they go through. And again, the aspect with the daughter that's crippled and like the mother that's, that's, I don't want to get too much into that. But like she's gone, something happened to her, and, it all makes sense. And like, there's these things that are all, like it wraps around, and it's a nice tight ribbon bow in a sense. It's presentable, it's watchable, it's not hard to watch or enjoy. I mean, it's just, it kind of drags out a little bit. It is a little slow. Like I said, it's a slow burn with, your typical payoff that you would get out of a haunted house ghost story film. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's fine for what it is. It's decent. And again, compared to the previous two films, it's the best of the bunch. Ian, your thoughts?
Well, what you had mentioned a minute ago. The acting, it's just like, the guy literally had nothing but like facial, like close-ups of just his face, and a couple of times I had looked away from the computer to do something, and I went back and I like, every time I did, it was just literally just another close-up of him making a different face. And I just was like, wow. And I was like, I guess I didn't really miss a whole lot. I just thought it was hilarious because every time I did that, I felt like I missed something. So I went back, and it was just, every time I clicked it, it was just him making a different face in a different lighting, in a different, like, setting. It was funny. But yeah, it kind of, I don't know, I partially had a little bit of a, the Haunting of Hill House,
Mm-hmm.
kind of got that vibe a little bit if you watch that show. But I mean, it was fine. It was a very slow burn. I like the clown, but then again, I just, I have a thing for clowns. And like the scarecrow kinda, it was alright looking. I did like the mask killer. But I was wondering where it was gonna go. And some of it I was wondering if it was all in his head or what was going on with this whole movie. And the ending kind of made me think, was like, okay, so that it is what I think it is. And I mean, it was all right. I mean, it's not the worst ending. I mean, I did, like you said, it is pretty, it's fairly obvious what's going to happen when it gets there. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as, it's executed well. And I thought it was executed fairly decent. I wish they would have done more with the characters, though. Because we don't do anything with them.
We're just in that house. Well, again, there's a reason we're in the house, but they're just they just mope around all day. You don't do anything really that great in the house in general. Just like the daughter's in bed or he's on his computer desktop, and I guess it's just, again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's a reasoning behind it, I would expect. But
yeah,
it's just, again, he just mopes around all day, and then he gets angry at his daughter, the daughter gets angry at him, and it's just like rinse repeat, and he goes back to write a story, and then they get angry at each other again, and write back another story. Oh, mom was here, something like that. It's just it goes back and forth, and then he's, again, writer's block, so he's looking through things and looking at pictures of his wife, and then they interject that into the stories that's going on that he's writing. So, I mean, it all, it comes full circle. But like I said, it's nothing really, like I said, it's just, that typical haunted house vibe where people go to a house, that's haunted, or some kind of backstory, and they stay there, and then bad things soon happen thereafter, and then there's a big reveal, and then we have your obvious payoff. And like I said, I mentioned the others because it felt like that, because people in the house, everything's going hunky-dory fine, and then things start to happen, and there's a reveal, So but this one, at least it tries with him being a writer and giving you some variety with the segments, because that does help the central story between Jake and Danny, and then it goes, farther and farther, into his mind with coming up with these stories and how the stories, again, interject with reality of the wraparound. Again, I'm doing this in anthology terms, but it's the only way to really describe it with everything going down. And then just like, again, he gets, towards the finale, the big final act of coming around, to realize the true meaning of everything. It's done well. I liked it. But again, it's a decent, okay movie. It's nothing grand. And again, I'm assuming that's the same way with the short in the Witching Season, where he's writer on Halloween and he's writing these segments and stuff like that. So I have to see the Witching Season to fully understand it. I mean, as a movie itself, it's fine. I mean, I didn't have, besides it just being a little too long, because there's like a lot of stuff that could have been trimmed. Because it's like an hour and 45. I mean, you could have went for an hour 35 a little bit, because there's like a lot of downtime. But I guess it's just, again, like I said, it's a slow burn, slow build to a pretty typical payoff, and it wasn't terrible. And like I said, it's the best of so far. And again, I'm repeating myself because there's really not much else to say. Ian.
Right, I'm right there with you. I mean, this movie was pretty straightforward, and without, divulging into spoilers.
Yeah, and there's nothing
really
bad
not
either. There's like no bad choices like the previous two films, where like things just didn't there's things to discuss. Like this one it's fine. I mean, I didn't have too much problem with it. So there's really, it's a decent watch. It's just it's there if it's on. You want something different to watch for Halloween, it's there. If you want something, you want an anthology film without watching a 2-hour anthology film, you get it in like a nice cohesive hour and 45-minute package.
And I mean, even though it was an hour and 45, I mean, some parts felt like it dragged on, but it really didn't, to me personally, didn't feel all that long. It felt like it was kind of a quick watch, because it just, I mean, I didn't hate, especially I didn't hate myself for watching it, like some of the films we've watched in recent years. And I mean, it's, it's like, I think it'd be about around, about average or that. But, I mean, will I watch it again? Probably not. But if, I mean, I wouldn't, if somebody asked me if that was a good movie, I'd say it was all right. I would, tell them, if I was you, go ahead and just watch it. But, yeah, that's about all I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's just like I said. We pretty much run around in circles now. It's like it's a sufficient. Well, I said sufficient with bad apples. I mean, it's a relatively fine film. It's well made. I don't know what the budget is on this one. I mean, I'm assuming it might be higher, lower than the other two. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that, but I'm assuming it might be a little bit low, compared. And like again, it's relatively well made. The set, the house by itself looks good, and then again, all the sets with the segments look good. The farmhouse and the corn maze with the scarecrow. I mean, it was all cool. I did like the way that the Scarecrow fell off the cross, though. That was pretty cool. And the way he walked around. Again, there's like a few things here and there that like they do stand out. Like again, the masked killer, he wears a cat mask, but like he's like all decrepit underneath, on his skin. So there's like attention to detail, and we didn't, there's a lot of planning that probably went into this to get the overall story and the segments all to work cohesively. Whereas like Bad Apples and On Ethel's, it was just throw shit at a board. It was like. Especially on Ethel, but nonetheless, like this one is like it's well made. It shows that there's a dedication and like a heart to it to get this story out. Because again, it was a short and there was more to it, so he decided I'm going to go and make this longer because he felt that there was more of a story to tell, and that was definitely more of a family bond between a father and his daughter, and family aspect to everything, and again the whole writer's block aspect, and so there was more story to be told in that that you couldn't have got out of that 30-minute segment. He needed to flesh it out, and you can see that again it shows on the screen that he really tried to make this special in his eyes, and I think it shows. Because it's like I said, we're saying the same thing over and over. It's not a bad film. It's just again, typical when it comes to those type of films, and being in a house that's haunted or a ghost story, and a reveal happens, and the true reveal happens while everything's going down. So it's not bad in that aspect. But again, it's just like you've seen it a few times. As I said. I mentioned the others. It's pretty on the nose where everything's going fine, and then something happens, and then you get the reveal. So it's like not really giving too much away saying the others, because it's not like that. It's just like the story arc is similar to the others in this film a little bit, but it's done again differently, of course, with the anthology setting in the writer's block aspect with him and the stories. So again, there's heart and there's a desire to tell this story more, flesh it out, as compared to the last two films that we reviewed so far for this marathon.
Yeah.
And what else you got?
I was going to say, I definitely think the movie would have been just a little bit better if they would have trimmed down some of the downtime time and just added it to, the segments and made it just a tiny bit longer. I think it would have been a little bit better, so that way we could have got more of a, kind of like a better atmosphere for each one. Not that it did, terrible. I just thought the movie might have had a tiny bit too much downtime that made you, lose interest for like a couple of seconds.
Yeah, but I can see that. But nonetheless, it's still it's a pass the time watch. It's fine.
Definitely.
Like I said, there's definitely a dedication to it, and hope again, I don't know what the next project will be, but it'll be interesting to see what he does, because this is again, even though it's been done in a similar fashion before, I still like to see he done it in a different take. So I'd like to see what he would do in a different genre, or else because again he tackled like four different horror genres in one. Because you got the haunted house, and then you got the slasher, and then you got the scarecrow, and you got the clown, so and the ghost. So you got a lot of things wrapped in one. So it'd be interesting to see where he would go on in his next feature, if he I'm assuming he wants to continue, of course, but it'd be interesting what next subject matter he'll conquer.
Right, and I kind of hope to see some more werewolf movies soon, because I know there's one that just came out, but I just want to see more werewolf movies. You don't really see that many good ones.
No, God, no. I've been watching a handful for again, trying to watch stuff for October, and plus get my collection down, and because I got these DVD piles stacked up everywhere, And I'm just like, there's some bad ones. I've been watching some shitty ones. And but I mean, the only one that I watched one just recently that just came out called the Wolf of Snow Hollow, and that was okay. It's not the greatest.
Just looking at that.
Yeah, it's decent. But yeah, it's not the I'm going to say something to you that you'll get. Night Howl. I'll just say that with that one when it comes to the Wolf of Snow Hollow. You'll understand it, I'm pretty sure. But nonetheless, I don't have really too much else to say for They Live Inside Us. Honestly, Wolf of Snow Hollow is not bad. It has some good gore. Honestly, there's some interesting gore to it, but the ending, you'll know. Any final thoughts, Ian, before we decide to close this show early?
I think I've said my piece. So.
Yeah, there's really not much else to really say when it comes to They Live Inside of Us, but I am interested to see where he goes on his next project because he does interesting job there on I don't know the budget. So it'd be interesting to see what the budget of this was and then compare it with the other two just to see how someone that's competent at filmmaking has a general idea, not just throwing shit out there. But nonetheless, I don't want to ramble on anymore. I think that's going to do it for our show tonight. We have 2 more films to go in. I'm looking forward to see what our next choices will be. So nonetheless, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of our Halloween Grab Bag Marathon show. So Ian, you stay safe and keep everything hunky-dory over there, and I'll do the same, and I will talk to you next week. Not, of course, person to person next week, but we'll be discussing episodes for next 2 weeks. But nonetheless, as always, it's great talking with you, and I want to thank everyone for listening, and we will see you next time for our continuation of a Halloween Grab Bag Marathon. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.